أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome to Receiving Noor weekly Quran study, and today we are أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن. Today we start with a new surah, a chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Sajdah. Again, Dr. Yamina will be kindly leading us in the study, and again we're highly encouraged to join in with comments, reflections, and questions. So without further delay, I turn to Dr. Yamina. Jazakum Allah khair.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم افتح لنا أبواب حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So Surah Al-Sajdah is Surah 32, and it is believed that it is mostly a Meccan surah, meaning that it was revealed in Mecca when the Prophet ﷺ, peace be upon him, was in Mecca. It has 30 ayah, not very long, and that's one of the reasons I chose it. It's also a particularly significant ayah. We understand that also from the meaning, but before we study it, from some narrations from the Prophet ﷺ, when we're told that he often recited this surah, Surah Al-Sajdah, for the early morning prayer, the Fajr prayer, every Friday. And there is another narration that also says that the Prophet ﷺ did not go to sleep without reciting Surah Al-Sajdah together with Surah Al-Mulk. It is called Surah Al-Sajdah, the prostration. Literally, it means the prostration. And it takes its name from ayah 15 in this surah. And obviously, ayah 15 mentions Sajda. That's why it is called so. Actually, in ayah 15 is a very interesting ayah. It mentions the believers who prostrate when they are reminded of God's ayat. We are actually told that the people who truly believe in our ayat, in God's ayat, God is speaking, are only those who, when they are reminded of them, when they are reminded of the ayat, of the signs, they fall down prostrating and glorify God with praise and are not arrogant. So these are the characteristics of the people who truly believe in the ayat. Only these people believe in the ayat. This gives us an insight into what is needed in order to receive that belief, that iman in the ayat. Prostration, glorifying God with praise, not being arrogant. Surah Al-Sajdah starts with الحروف المقطعة, the disconnected letters. Remember, there are 29 surahs, 29 chapters of the Quran that starts with these disjointed letters. And sometimes these letters are an ayah on their own, and sometimes they are part of an ayah, but they are always at the very beginning of the surah. And here, the first ayah of Surah Al-Sajdah is Alif, Lam Mim, which is the same as in Surah Luqman. Surah Luqman is Surah 31 that comes right before this surah, and we did study it together a while ago. So in Surah Luqman, it started with Alif, Lam Mim. Those are the ayat, the signs of the wise book. Usually, these 29 surahs that starts with these disjointed letters, they always start with something related to the Quran, the book, the ayat of the book. So Surah Al-Sajdah, Surah 31, it starts with Alif Lam Mim. And then we are told the sending down of the book, without a doubt, is from the sustainer of all the words. Tanzilul kitabi la rayba fihi min rabb-ul-alameen. Ayah 3, or do they say he has fabricated it? Nay, it is the truth from your sustainer, that you may warn a people to whom no warner has come before you, so that they may be guided. God who has created, so the sustainer is being described now in Ayah 4. It is God who has created the heavens and the earth and all that is in between them in 6 aeons, and is established on the throne of his almightiness. You have none to protect you from God and none to intercede for you. Will you not then remember? He directs the affair from heaven onto earth, then it ascends unto him in a day whose measure is as 1,000 years of your reckoning. Such is the knower of the unseen and the seen, the Almighty, the Merciful. So right after, as usual, the moment the Rabb is mentioned, who this Rabb is described, and always he is, of course, described with his creation that we can witness and that we are part of. So I'll start with the first 2 ayat, inshallah. So far, is there any comment or any question? Anything attracted your attention? Okay, I'll carry on, and you can always just say whatever you want to comment or ask, inshallah. So the first 2 ayat are Alif Lam Mim, the sending down of the book without a doubt is from the sustainer of all the world. Alif Lam Mim, Tanzilul kitabi la rayba fihi min rabb-ul-alameen. So la rayba fihi means there is absolutely no doubt whatsoever. There is no doubt whatsoever in the book. So we have ayah number 1 mentioning some mysterious letters that are disconnected. Alif Lam Mim is like the equivalent of ALM. And then the second ayah stating that there is certainly no doubt that this is sent from the sustainer of all words, rabb-ul-alameen. And this immediately reminds me of the first time we met these disjointed letters, this huruf al-muqatta'a, in Surah Yusuf, Surah 12. It's the first surah I'm guessing that we started studying together, although it's a very long surah. And Surah Yusuf, Surah 12, start with Alif Lam Ra. Those are signs of a book clear in itself and clearly showing the truth. So a lot has been written about the possible meanings and the mysteries of the disconnected letters in the Quran. Wallahu alam, and God knows, because we can never be sure that this is exactly what it means, since they are what they are. They are mysterious. They are just they seem like letters. So apart from what has been written about what they could be indicating, 2 questions come to mind. One is, what is so clear about the disconnected letters? Here in Surah Al-Sajdah, right after the first ayah, Alif Lam Mim, the second ayah is talking about there being absolutely no doubt that this is from rabb-ul-alameen, the sustainer of all world. In Surah Yusuf, we have Alif Lam Ra, some letters, and then we are told those are signs of a book clear. Like, where is the clarity? Why is it clear, so clear? How come there is no doubt about it when we don't even understand what these letters really mean? So the first question is, what's so clear about these disconnected letters that there is no doubt that they are from God, let's say? And the second question is, how are these letters an ayah? How do they constitute an ayah? Because the first ayah has only these three letters. It means these three letters put one after the other, Alif, A-L-M, Alif, Lam, Mim. This is an ayah of the Quran in itself. It's a whole ayah, number one. How are these letters an ayah? How do they constitute a sign? So we did discuss these points in the past. And inshallah, I will mention it again because since it is repeated in the Quran, it must mean that it is important. As I had mentioned also, repetition indicates importance. I mean, everyone knows that something that is repeated, it indicates the importance of what is repeated, because this is something that Imam Nursi points. Why is it important? Lots of people say repetition is for importance, but he explains it, he gives it a very profound explanation. He says it's because there is a renewal of need. If there is a renewal of need within us, then the repetition is not something appreciated. We need the repetition because the need is being renewed as well. And as the need is being taken care of, we get to appreciate that repetition again and again, and it starts speaking to us. And so here it's all about becoming aware of our needs. Then we get to appreciate the repetition even more. At the same time, this is for in daily life, we understand this. If we take the example, the classical example of food, water, and air, we can eat a few times a day, we drink more often, and we breathe nonstop. We can't eat nonstop. We can't drink water nonstop. Why not? Because we don't have the need for it. But just because we breathe nonstop, we don't say, oh, that's enough. Because we know that air is not water and it's not food as far as our body's need is concerned. We need the air constantly, therefore, repeating the breathing constantly it's not boring, it's not uncomfortable, it's just the opposite. If we were to stop breathing, if there was no renewal of either air or the ability to breathe, then there will be a problem. So you see that repetition is very welcome when there is a need and the need is renewed and we are aware of the need. Now, because we are not always aware of our spiritual needs in the same way, the fact that when something is repeated, the the proportion or the how much something is repeated in the Quran is assigned to how much we need it in ourselves. There is a need within us. So if something is repeated all the time, it means it's like air for our heart and soul. If it's repeated from time to time, maybe it's like food, maybe it's like water. Don't know if inshallah, you got the point. So the fact that it is repeated is itself an ayah, an indication, a sign. Now let's look at Alif, Lam, Mim, the first ayah of this surah, Surah Al-Sajdah. It means ALM, and it is spelled. I'll explain what I mean by this. In Arabic, like in English actually, the letters of the alphabets have sounds and they have names. The sound L, we call the letter L. The sound M, we call the letter M. The sound R, we call it R. R is actually, if you're going to write it down, it's AR, but actually it is the name of the letter that when we are reading, we just sound it and it sounds R. When we are spelling, then we name it and it has the name R. And so in Arabic, the sounds is spelled Alif. The sounds M is spelled Mim, not M. In English, M. In Arabic, Mim. The sound L is L in English. It's Lam in Arabic. So when spelling, we use the name of the letters rather than their sound, although they're often related. And what's remarkable in here is that the Quran, the word Quran literally itself means recitation. And usually the Quran is read aloud. Even when you're reading on your own, we are encouraged to read it a little bit out loud and recite it. But when it comes to these letters, they are not sounded when we read them. No, they are spelled as if we are spelling to someone who is going to write them. So we're naming the letters instead of sounding them. While in fact we are reading, we are reciting, and that's strange. When you are reading something, you sound the letters, you don't name them. You don't spell them. So it's something very unfamiliar, let's say, is going on here. So there is the fact that they are...
I couldn't follow that part. Because like ALM, if somebody says it that way, I'm going to write it as letters, I'm not going to write it as...
Yeah. So the fact that they are disconnected letters is unfamiliar and strange. The fact that we are reading the Quran, we are reading, and then suddenly when it comes there, we're spelling them. It attracts your attention suddenly. Why spell here? Because when we are reading, we sound the letters. And then suddenly we're spelling them. We're not spelling them to someone else. I'm reading it on my own. I'm on my own. I'm not spelling to someone else who's going to write them. And yet, so it's something unusual is going on here. The fact that suddenly I stop and I read them in a different way is because in Arabic you write them in You can't write like in English, disconnected letters, A and then L and then M. All the letters have to come, are usually connected. And although they are connected, we don't read them as LM, don't you, or isn't, or something like that. So there is an emphasis on the fact that they are disconnected, on the fact that something else is going on here. And this, what is important is their being strange and unfamiliar and enigmatic. And that is unsettling. Of course, it is unsettling if I pause and reflect on this ayah. I can just read, say, Alif, Lam, Mim, A, L, M, carry on. But if I say this is ayah 1 of this surah, what does this ayah mean to me? If I pause, if I reflect, then there is something unsettling, something strange going on here. Otherwise, I can just think, oh, it's different. It must be a code or something like that, and just pass. But then why is it sent to us? And especially, it's not in the middle of the text. Each time these letters come at the very beginning. If something is at the opening of a surah, it means it's very important. It's there at the very beginning to attract our attention. So I can just go to the second ayah, yes. But if I stay there and stay with that feeling of being unsettled, being perplexed, being feeling uneasy, what's going on here? I don't know what's going on. Then a journey is going to start. And the fact that it doesn't happen in the Quran only once, but 29 times in 29 surahs, always at the beginning of those surahs, then I personally feel the need to pause and to reflect. And this is what I'm going to share is my journey or my, with these letters, with this in here, with this letter. But it didn't have the journey didn't start with this surah, because I also have now some familiarity with them. Some familiarity in the sense of being familiar with their unfamiliarity, in that sense. So the first thing is, they leave me perplexed and feeling clueless. And the more I start with that feeling clueless and feeling like I don't know what's going on here, that feeling in itself is a very sobering start. It makes me stop and wonder, what are these letters? What are they doing here? What's their meaning? What could they possibly mean? Or what function could they have? And so normally I'm likely to read the words when there is a word, like ayah 2, the sending down of the book. I say the book was sent down. This is what I understand. Okay, I know the words at least. So I'm likely to read the words. And if I'm not sure about, let's say there is a word I don't understand, I can always check it in the dictionary. And then that's it. Now it feels to me like I understood the ayah. I understood the statement. I understood the words. I understood the sentence. And so it feels like, or I imagine that I understood the ayah. And I don't feel the need to listen further or to ask questions. Because it's clear, the sending down of the book without a doubt, is from the sustainer of the world. Clear, pass. Ayah 3. So I don't feel the need for help because it seems as though I got the message figured out from the literal meaning. But is it true? Is this true? This is a question to you. I would love if you would share what you think about it. If you know all the words and you read the ayah and you understand the word, is it true that I understood the ayah? No, no one.
Please go ahead, Khadija.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So I think the answer is pretty clear, but having read something or verbally reciting something in and of itself doesn't necessitate that I understand the meaning of it or all of its implications.
Okay, so you think I might understand the statement, but not its implications? Yes. Okay, I'll carry on and you can, inshallah, share. So let's think of it in another way. Why would a statement be called an ayah, which means an indication, a sign, if there is nothing to it more than in its literal meaning? If it's only the literal meaning, then what is an ayah then? I mean, if it is an ayah, if it is a sign, then shouldn't it indicate something else, something beyond the literal meaning? And where is the beyond part in this? And how is the Quran different from any other texts? So when I forget that the Quran is, or that, yeah, can I say the Quran is made of ayat, or that the units of the Quran are ayat, they are signs, and I focus on no more than the literal meanings, then in a way, I can be sort of deluded in imagining that I figured everything out. I understand the ayah now because I know what it means. I know all the words. Maybe I even thought about the literal meaning, and maybe I thought about the implication of these words. A word may have more than one meaning and all that, all those layers. But is that all? So I will come back to this point, inshallah, when we consider the concept of tanzil, which is the sending down mentioned in the second ayah. The sending down of the book, without a doubt, is from the sustainer of all the words. I kept the original sending down instead of, often I've checked and it's translated as revelation. But revelation to me, revelation in a way can come from anyone. Anyone can reveal something to me, and whatever is revealed can be revealed totally. So there is nothing left unrevealed. But sending down, has already a notion of levels already included in the meaning of the word. So the one who is sending and the one who is receiving the sending are not at the same level. So it's coming from a higher level, and therefore there'll always be an unrevealed part and an inaccessible part, an unfathomable aspect of the Quran, because it is not up to me to reach it, but I am not the active producing understanding and unrevealing or anything. I am receiving it is being sent to me. So I can only receive as much as is sent my way. Okay, I'll inshallah, we can talk about it when we come to the tanzil, nazala, the sending down. But here with the disconnected letters, I cannot claim that I understood for sure. It's different than with the words, than with the ayah 2, for instance. Ayah 1, I cannot take them for granted as I usually do with words that I'm familiar with, because they are unfamiliar. Then in a subtle way, I am made to realize my limitations. Suddenly, I cannot just read and understand. Suddenly, I feel, I don't know, and I feel the need to know. I feel the need to be helped, to feel the need for something to be revealed to me. There is something, a mystery here that I have no key to unravel this mystery. So it's, I'm made in a way to realize my limitation and to remember that I only know what I am taught. Even with the other ayats, actually, all the time, even when we are not reading the Quran, when we understand something in the world, we understand only as much as is we are being inspired with, what we are being taught. We say it came to my mind. Where did it come from? If I was the source of the understanding, I would not need any time to think and try to understand. I would just say, be and it is, understand, and you understand. But that's not how it works. So this is an opportunity to realize my limitation and to realize my need for understanding, and therefore that understanding in general is not from me. It's just like when I am in a state of ghafla, in a state of mindlessness, I take it for granted. I take the understanding for granted, and I don't wonder where it came from to me. I just take it and run with it. But as we are taught in the Quran, Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. That's what the angels said. Oh, glory be to you, God. We have no knowledge except that what you have taught us. So now I am more likely to reflect on who I am as the recipient of meaning, of understanding, and not its source. So I am made to understand this condition of mine, this aspect of my ubudiyah, that I am a recipient and not a creator, not an active creator. So to that extent, I wake up from the delusion of I understand. To that extent, it's a process, and I am more likely, if I choose to surrender, to let go, to surrender to that reality, to the reality that understanding does not come from me, but through me, that it is a gift, that I am a recipient, I receive it, I do not produce it, then I can let go of my arrogance and prostrate, allegorically, at least metaphorically, before my Rabb and ask for help. I'm using these words because of ayah 15 of this surah, because that is the only way where people truly can believe truly in the ayat of God. If we don't go through that process, either we are believing in something that is not ayat, or they are not ayat of God. They do not, if it's an ayat from God, it means it takes us back to God. It indicates its origin, where it came from. It tells us about God. There is no way without the prostrating, glorifying God, tasbih. Tasbih, it means, in this case, I am not the one who understands. You are the one who imparts understanding of me. Therefore, be grateful for it. And وَلَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ, and do not be arrogant. And remember, we talked about not being arrogant comes before Iman enters the heart, because that's the state that we need to be in order to be able to receive Iman. When there is arrogance in the heart, Iman cannot enter there. And here the arrogance is not going around claiming something. You know, because of ghafla, because of mindlessness, we're not claiming that we understand. We are unaware that we don't understand, so we take it for granted as though we understand. So, and that's the whole thing about ghafla, is that we are not aware of what we are doing. That's why it's a self-deception, it's a delusion. But in that delusion, there is some arrogance. So here, that's why I said, let go of my arrogance and prostrate, and then ask for help. And then what help do we need in this case? What could this possibly mean? How can these three letters be an ayah? How is this related to me here and now? Now the process of listening has started. And now I have become more and more open to receive the message to be revealed through this ayah, through the ayah, Alif, Lam, Mim. And now I am more likely to actually listen to this divine message, to this Quranic ayah. And through this process, I am also being prepared to receive the message and to understand some of it, inshallah. So note here that how would I say it? As we learn to give up our arrogance, we learn our true situation, that we have needs for understanding, but we cannot produce understanding. And when we make peace, we accept this situation, we surrender to this reality. Surrendering to this reality is humility. That's letting go of the arrogance that we had in our ghafla. So when we learn to give up our arrogance through this process, the arrogance that stems from our ghafla, our mindlessness, and the resulting delusion that we imagine, we understand, whereas the reality is that understanding is a gift unto us all the time, not only in the Quran, but particularly here, that meanings are imparted onto us, especially revealed messages that are sent from the unseen. We only know what is sent our way, what is sent to us. We can only know as much, we can only understand as much as is sent to us. We do not produce understanding, so we seek it. We seek it and it is given to us, meaning we are inspired. You can call it inspiration if you like. And if we want to understand the Quran, then we need to remain in this mode of being aware of our situation, of our having needs and not having the power to fulfill the needs, and remain in that mode of seeking and praying and asking from God to send us, in this case, the meaning of his ayat. And the sending is going to be the inzal mentioned in the next ayah. And this seeking, this praying, this feeling our need and expressing them, whether not necessarily in words, but living them, being aware of them and offering them to God. And that state of being is a state of sajda, state of prostration before our Rabb. And that's the no arrogance mentioned in ayah 15. Remember, ayah 15, we're so told the people who truly believe in our ayat are only is important here. إنما يؤمنوا بآياتنا. إنما, only. Those who, when they are reminded of them, when they are reminded of God's ayat, they fall down prostrating and glorify God with praise, and they are not arrogant. So this way, through these strange letters, this ayah, Alif Lam Mim, it stretches out our limits. From one aspect, it reminds us of how very limited we are. From another aspect, as far as we are concerned, we are very limited. But from another aspect, it stretches our limits because now we realize that we have needs, and through our needs, we can pray, we can seek help, we can ask, and we find an unlimited source, the source of knowledge, the source of knowing, the sender, the rabb-ul-alameen, the sender of this ayat. And so this ayah makes us also realize, the ayah with these strange letters makes us realize that there are things beyond our reach. And we're reminded that we are limited beings with limited knowledge, limited resources, and therefore we are in need of help. We are in need of knowledge being given to us. So this ayah wakes us up and teaches us integrity, wakes us up from ghafla, from taking it for granted as if I exist independently of my Rabb. It wakes us up to our ubudiyah, our being abd, our being totally dependent on someone else. So there is integrity here instead of being deluded. And at the same time, it opens the door or the window to this limitless source that now we can seek and ask help from. And so you can see so far, in itself, this is compassionate guidance. So putting those letters that way at the very beginning of the ayah, of the surah, making them into an ayah is compassionate guidance. And it's being performed right here and now as I am reading, as I am listening. I'm saying as I'm reading, as I'm listening, it means that the guidance of that ayah, the Alif, Lam, Mim, these 3 letters, being an ayah, being at the beginning of the surah, are going to help me, guide me through this path that we've been going through right now together when I follow the guidance. It means I follow the guidance means I act on the guidance. The guidance was in the beginning, the ayah 1 had an effect on me. It affected me in a certain way. So it mirrored something in me. I felt perplexed. I felt limited. I felt clueless. I felt lost. What's going on here? Those were creational ayat in the creation that I encountered because I took ayah 1 of Surah Sajda seriously, because I intended to listen to its guidance. And so it started guiding me, and the guidance is going to happen in the created world. So the resulting creational signs, the ayat, within me, it brought up within me, such as feeling perplexed and clueless and limited and all that, they were part of the guidance. And I started listening to them as well, because they are part of the reading. Does it make sense up to now? So I get to the second point.
And Dr. Yamina, just Dr. Yamina, so yes, when you said, I was guided by the first verse, Alif, Lam, Mim, you're talking about your experience, or like more largely like our experience potentially?
I am sharing my experience, but it is an experience that is not peculiar to me, because if I felt clueless, I don't think anyone will say, why did you feel clueless? Of course, 3 letters, disconnected letters, means this. What you can write books about it, but you can never say this, I am sure these letters mean this. You are always, you may not be guessing, you are, if you are writing something about them, you are still following some inspiration based on
I agree with you that it applies to everyone. I just wanted to,
yeah. So yes, it is a personal journey, but if I am sharing because I feel that anyone would feel the same way in the beginning. And that's why some people were fascinated and listened and stayed with them, and they were inspired with some meanings, which you may agree, you may not agree. So I'm not going into the content of what they are inspired with. I am going with only that it looks like, how can this be an ayah when we can't even know the meaning of it? Well, that's exactly how it is fulfilling the function of an ayah, and it is revealing to us, teaching us what really an ayah is. And this is very important, because it's actually extremely important because it's a fundamental Quranic concept. Not only each unit of the Quran is an ayah, you can say even words, each word is an ayah, but or at the same time, everything in the creation is an ayah. Everything, small, big, little, everything is an ayah, is a sign. So if this ayah is teaching us what an ayah means, then it is very important. Apart from what each letter could actually refer to. I'm not going that way, since there it becomes a little more subjective.
Thank you. And when you said that precisely the guidance of these mysterious letters is to perplex us, I remember the quote from Ibn Arabi, a famous Muslim scholar, who said the purpose of the Quran is to lead human beings to hayra, to perplexity.
And what did you understand from that?
I just know the quotes. I don't know the overall context of that sentence, but what I understood was that that state of being at all before God is the key purpose of the Quran, to take us from a place where we think we know things and we're fine, we're self-sufficient, or even we understand the divine, to a moment where we realize that it's so incredible and so beyond us, transcended in that sense. To so it's not perplexity because you're confused, but it's perplexity, or not confused because you couldn't understand something you could have understood. Rather, it's being amazed and at awe and rightly overwhelmed before God.
Yeah. So if we understood what I tried, inshallah, ask questions, make comments. So if it's not clear, it gets clearer, because I may not have expressed myself in the clearest way. I tried my best though. Now I want to get to the second part, which the question was, how is this an ayah? First, like Alif, Lam, Mim, A-L-M, this is an ayah. How is this an ayah? And of course, what comes to my mind first is, what is an ayah? I need to know what is an ayah in order to know if Alif, Lam, Mim is actually an ayah, constitutes an ayah or no, right? And this is how I will find out that actually it does teach us, Alif Lam Mim does teach us and remind us of what an ayah is. So we don't take it for granted, because we may tend to take it for granted. We say, yes, ayah, I know an ayah of the Quran, a unit of the Quran, a verse of the Quran is an ayah. Everything in the creation is ayah. So, and that's it, carry on. If I think I got it just because I said this, then we are told in the Quran, here it is, Alif Lam Mim. So explain this to me. How is this an ayah? So again, not only it reminds us of our limitedness, our need for guidance and help, but it also gives us very precious hints about the meaning of ayah, which is very, very important, since, as we're told in the Quran again and again, hundreds of times, everything is an ayah. So we'd better know what an ayah means, what ayah means, what a sign is. So let's think of writing. I'm talking about writing not as a random example, but because the fact that we are spelling the letters A, L, M, and we're not saying A, L, M as when we are reading, reciting. We are spelling like in writing. It means this brings to my mind writing. Letters, writing. These are letters. They are part of a system of writing, a system called language. So writing is usually constituted of shapes. We call them letters, and each letter has a sign value. And so different shapes will have different signs values in different languages, although they may have similar sound. The same sound, L, L, Lam in Arabic is written differently than in English, for instance. And so when the letters are put together, they form words. And the words refer to something other than themselves. The word does not refer to the sound we make. There is a value assigned to it, a meaning assigned to it. And so if I say glass, well, glass is a little bit ambiguous because it could be a glass I drink water or the glass itself. If I say book, then we think of a particular item out there in the world. And if it will only make sense if we know, if we've seen a book before. And so we know what the word, the sound book refers to. And when you say kitab, we know it's referring to the same thing as book, although book sounds different from kitab. But if you know Arabic, you know that kitab means book. They're both referring to the same thing, but the thing out there has nothing to do with the sounds. It's okay. That's what a sign is. It's referring to something in the world. And so what matters is the code value assigned to each word, meaning what it refers to. Another example, now I'm taking it more to what's going on in the Quran, because language is just like, how do you say, comparisons are always limited somewhere. Another example, let's say I'm very hungry. I'm really, really hungry. I haven't eaten for a long time and I have nothing to eat. And I am walking or whatever, or driving or moving. Then suddenly I see a signpost with the words food written on it, or restaurant written, inscribed on it. How would you feel if you were in that situation? If you're really, really hungry, and then suddenly, and you have nothing to eat, and then suddenly you see a signpost and something in it is written, restaurant, food, or something. From that, what is written, you understand that it's referring to somewhere where there is food, right? How would you feel?
Yes, it will be more helpful if it said halal food.
You can always eat vegetarian, you can eat, why do you need to eat meat? If you're very hungry, anything is. But you will feel relieved, right? There is a feeling involved that has nothing to do with the word written there. When you are not hungry, that signpost doesn't have the same meaning. Maybe you wouldn't even see it. And so now I feel relieved. I have hope. I haven't seen any food, anything, but now I have hope. And what would you do if you were me after you see this? Do I read the sign and then stop there and that's it? I don't take any action? Would it make sense if okay, I read it, I know now.
I'll keep following the directions until I get to near the destination.
Yes, right? Because that's what you want. You want what the signpost is leading to. We want to follow the direction until we find, hopefully, we'll find the place and the food, inshallah. And that will take care of a need that we have. So it wouldn't make sense if I see the signpost and intellectually understand this is the signpost, it takes the food, you are hungry, you need the food, that's it, full stop, stay there. No. That's, if you are really hungry, is not an intellectual. That's why understanding the Quran is not only an intellectual endeavor. It's a process that we live with our heart, with meanings, with our emotions, with our feeling, with our soul, with our hopes. Everything is involved. Being aware of our needs and feeling the need for some guidance and following the signs to get to the benefiting from the guidance, inshallah. So the point here is I'm relieved, although there is no food yet. The sign is not the food. That's what I want to emphasize. The signpost is not the food, but it is talking, or it is hinting to a place where there is food. It leads to the food that I need. And that's why I don't just read the sign and stop, because I know that. And if I read the sign and stop and I say, I know where that's where the food is, then I don't have hunger, I'm not hungry, I don't need food, or I don't know what I'm saying. Now, why? So the point here is that the signpost is not the food. The second point is, in that situation, would you care about the quality of the writing? Or it doesn't say restaurant, it says, I don't know, diner, but restaurant would have been better than diner. That would be secondary. The first thing is we are interested in what it is pointing to. The quality of the writing, the shape of the letters, is it a good calligraphy, bad calligraphy? As long as I can read them and get the message. Because if I'm illiterate, the sign is there unless there is, that's why now they have also signs like cutlery, because what if I don't read that language, if I'm in a foreign country? So when I see cutlery, I understand. It's a sign, it's a symbol, just like words. And so I get the message. Getting the message is what matters. The message is not the same as the sign, and acting on the message is what's going to get me full. Just getting the message is not enough. Acting on it, following up the sign matters as much or maybe more. Of course, if I don't get the message, I won't be able to follow up. So the sign is important because of what it conveys. And what makes me happy or relieved or hopeful is the meaning indicated. And that's what letters are for. Letters convey meanings. You can say the same sometimes, maybe, as I said, cutlery, some drawing may convey a meaning, but letters convey the meaning more clearly. Letters in writing or sounds here because it's a signpost. Sounds also convey meanings more clearly. So it means language or script has two aspects: the visible, the shape aspect that we read, different shape in different languages, and the non-visible, the intended meaning, the signified meaning, signified aspect, which it could be sometimes in the same sign, it will be written in different languages. They all look different, but it's the intended meaning is one. So when we read a message, when we read a text, we first see the letters, the shape, the ink, the physical, the visible aspect. Then comes the second aspect, the meanings conveyed, that only someone who is proficient in reading can decipher. And sometimes the immediate meaning may also have more hidden implication, more profound. So there may be layers of meaning, and I'm not going there. But at least let's make the difference between the visible and the non-visible, the meaning. And the meaning, only someone who can read can decipher the meaning. So if we ask, is writing letters, is it shapes? In a sense, yes. But it is not only shapes and letters. At the same time, writing is so much more than the shapes of the letters. It is the meaning, because to an illiterate person, the shapes are only like scribbles. What makes those scribbles letters, meaningful letters, is that we know how to decipher them, to decipher the meaning they indicate. That's it. And we call letters and words in a language are called signs. Why? Because they signify meanings that are not contained in the word, but ascribed to them, something beyond, out there. So language can be used as a parallel. It's not exactly the same, but it starts giving us, we start thinking about the notion of ayah. And I feel the fact that we are reading the letters as though they are written, Alif, Lam, Mim, is an invitation from one perspective to think about letters as signs in a language. So in a language, there is a system of signs, and they are designed intentionally with the purpose of carrying and conveying specific meanings. And if we miss the meaning, if we miss the second aspect of language, the intended, that's what the language was created for. I mean, that's why we have the scribbles, the shapes, and the letters, for the meanings and not vice versa. If we don't get the meaning, then we don't understand the language. That's it. We miss everything. And that's why another example that comes to my mind is reciting the Quran without understanding. So I can learn to sound letters, to read them without understanding. Like lots of people can recite the Quran, but they are not reading the Quran because they don't understand what they are sounding, what they are reciting. So that's another level. Now for them, it's not just scribbles, they are letters. They can even read the letters, they can sound them. Now the next step is to understand the meaning, and there is another step beyond the meaning. What do those meanings indicate? So I'm just using these as example to see that there are levels here of what an ayah is. So to the person who learned a language, for instance, in this case, who learned the Arabic language, the first visible aspect, not only the letters and the shapes, but the sounds as well, serve as a vehicle to the second aspect, which is the meaning. One person sees the shapes as scribbles, the other one sees them as letters and can sound them, but doesn't understand what they mean. The other one hears the sound and understands what they mean. Is it finished? Not yet. Does it make sense so far? So this is just to understand the concept of ayah. I mean, imagine someone who has no idea what writing is, doesn't even know what the notion of writing, of script doesn't exist for this person. And we show this person a written text and ask him about his thought. What do you think his reaction is going to be or could be? What can he say about it? He won't talk about language. He can't talk about language. He can't talk about meaning. He's going to see only scribbles and shapes. And all he can express could be some thoughts about the look of the shapes. Because in his perception, those shapes are only shapes. They are merely shapes. The notion of script, if he has no notion of script, then he will have no notion of words and letter. So there is no writing there for him, and therefore no meaning. And this situation is similar to our attitude in life. If someone says, what I see in the world is only what I see, there is no deeper meaning, then it's the same. That person has doesn't see things as signs. And when we see things as signs, we recognize the interconnection of everything. There are sentences, there are words. Some words come again in our life. We recognize this feeling in these situations. I always feel this way. What's going on here? So I feel that there is something meaningful going on. But if I don't think about it that way, then if I have no notion, or if I refuse the notion of meaningful, purposeful creation, then I will say these are just scribbles, just haphazard, random things here and there. And that's why in the Quran we are told repeatedly that every single thing, however little or small it is, everything are events, ayat, they are signs. And if they are signs, it means they are created with wisdom, with purpose, with meaning. It means they are there to be understood or to be read, if we want to use the language parable. They are there to be read in the name of their creator. Iqra bismi rabbika was the first revelation. But often what do? Do we learn to recognize the letters, the words in the creation? Do we spend any time learning how to read them, how to decipher the meanings they convey? Do we see meanings in what happens in the world, and especially in things that are ugly or messy or things that we don't like? When we don't like what happens, we often tend to start doubting that there is wisdom and purpose and meaning, because I can't see it. It's like complicated text. I can't read it, and I say, is this writing? Is this language? Does this even carry meaning? And we don't say it explicitly, but our attitude says that. For instance, when we say, why is this happening? Not necessarily to me, it could be happening in the world out there. This is awful. It means it should not be happening. That's what it means. And why is it so? Why do we feel that way? Because often we have no clue how things are signed. What does it mean that they are ayat? How to read the signs, how to decipher the signs. And this reading includes, to a great extent, from the beginning, what we've been doing, this reading of the signs in the Quran and therefore in the creation. Because you see, the Quran says Alif Lam Mim, and Alif Lam Mim brings a host of feelings into me. And I cannot read the Alif Lam Mim without referring to what I'm feeling, or vice versa, because I have to listen and learn to read them together. Now, this reading, not only the reading of the creation alone, but of the Quran, and as I always say, this parallel reading, we can only realize and confirm that the Quran is truly ascending from rabb-ul-alameen, that it is a healing, that it is wisdom, that it is guidance from our merciful, compassionate Rabb, sustainer, when we read the Quran together with the creation, because that's the only way we can make the shahada and actually witness and see and witness like Ibrahim alayhi salam. And so our heart is satisfied that yes, this is the truth. This Quran is ascending down from rabb-ul-alameen, from my Rabb. Why? Because it is bringing light. It is revealing the meaning of everything in the creation for me. So from one aspect, I need to read them together in order to confirm the truth of the Quran. From another aspect, it is only when I read the creation together with the Quran that I can understand the meaning of the signs in the creation. Otherwise, I won't see how everything is glorifying God. I won't find their meanings and purposes. There's no way, only the one who creates can know the purpose of the creation. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ. Only the one who creates knows, as we are told repeatedly in the Quran. So you see, we need to read them together. So while we are reading them together, this reading includes in the beginning, let's focus now on reading the Quran, because it is the reading of the Quran that is going to teach us how to read the creation, the signs in the creation, including within ourselves. When I read the Quran, there are words. I need to not only sound the words, but also know the meaning of the words. That's the first step. But then this reading includes, to a great extent, feeling the need for help, like Alif, Lam, Mim. Every ayah should be read like Alif, Lam, Mim. That's how I understand what Isra shared with us about the whole Quran bringing this feeling of perplexity, this hayra within us. So it's not only Alif, Lam, Mim that should put me in that state. There it's clear I cannot run away from that state because I cannot claim, I cannot deceive myself and say, I understand, I know, pass, next, what comes next? I can't say that. And that's why it comes at the very beginning. To attract my attention, to make me pause, to make me question my claims about understanding. Understanding the literal meaning of the language is necessary, but it is not sufficient. That's the beginning. That's understanding the signpost. Now you understood the signpost says restaurant. Do you know that what a restaurant is? Do you know that it's talking about food? Do you know that you are hungry and you need food? And then once you understood that, are you following up and going and eating the food? So there are stages there. Just because I say, oh, I read restaurant. Some people just read the word restaurant. Some people say, okay, I learned the language, and we need to. And they know now what restaurant is, and then stop there. No? So this is the tip of the iceberg. The rest, the big work comes after. So this is indispensable work. The first part, understanding the language and the literal meaning. It is indispensable because that's the signpost. Without the signpost, we don't know which way to go and where we're heading to. So we need that. But it's not the end. Now it's the beginning of the journey. The journey of reading the sign. And the reading is not only a reading out there, the reading and experience and experiencing and living. This includes feeling, for instance, the need for help, seeking help through contemplating, the help to understand, the help to get to the restaurant, the help to find something that is nourishing in the restaurant. Just because I saw the sign, it's not the end of everything. So feeling the need for the help, and therefore, how do I express this need? Through contemplating, reflecting, and listening. Listening is very important. Unless I listen, I am not going to capture, to receive what is sent my way. This is an inner listening. And this inner listening is not possible if I'm in a state of ghafla. I won't be listening if I'm listening means it is intentional. It means I'm a present. I am not in a state of, I cannot be in a state of ghafla and be present intentionally. And it has to be able to do that, I have to have done tazkiyah, a purification from, for instance, the delusion of knowing. Because if I think I know and I understood, I won't feel the need for all this. So I need to let go of that, the delusion of knowing, the delusion of doing, of being guided, all those delusions they are all hints of arrogance. I have to let go of those. That's false arrogance. And that letting go, that cleaning up, that purification, when the more there is purification, the more I am likely to hear. When I'm listening, I will hear what I'm inspired with. And so I get ready. The more I do this work, I am more and more ready to receive the light of divine guidance. And the reading of an ayah is not limited to the word and to the literal meaning, because that literal meaning, as I am internalizing it and living it, I am going to start experiencing the world through it. I start performing it in my world. And to that extent, I'm going to benefit from its guidance. It's like what came to my mind. It may not be a good example, but if I have an illness and there is medicine sitting there, I need to take it, ingest it, in order for it to for me to heal. If I'm hungry and there is food out there, I need to eat it. So this process of purification, of tazkiyah, of inner listening, of contemplating, of reflecting, of seeking help, all this is the eating, if it's food or medication, and digesting and benefiting from the message of an ayah, for instance, including Alif Lam Mim. So I'm saying every ayah, however clear it seems to us, we need to approach it in the same way as we approach Alif Lam Mim, because that's what an ayah is. Alif Lam Mim is like the blueprint of the ayah. And if I think the other ayats are different, it's not because, well, they are different in a way, but in the ayah aspect, they are similar. And if I don't see that similarity, it's because of my own taking for granted that I understood everything except this. No, I don't understand truly anything, only to the extent that it is revealed unto me. I am inspired with some of its guidance. To the extent that I'm enlightened with some of its guidance, I'm healed with some of its light. So when I understand and study the literal meaning, it is necessary, but it is not sufficient. That's my part. And then with that, I go and pray, open my hand and wait to be given. So our being ignorant of the signs of our Rabb around us, or our being unable to read them, could be likened to someone who has heard about writing and script, but never took the time to learn or read. So can you imagine if this illiterate person imagines himself to be a student without doing any work, just by name only? Just because he says he's a student doesn't make him a student. Just because I say I'm a student of the Quran or I am a Muslim does not make me that, although it is the beginning, but I need to do something to be the student. In this case, to be students of the Quran, we need to do first the outer work. The outer work is easier of understanding, the outer message, the literal message. And more importantly, we also need to do the inner work of reflecting, purifying ourselves, listening. And all this work can be in a way summarized, metaphorically at least, as prostrating and letting go of the arrogance due to ghafla, to mindlessness and to ignorance. And again, the ayah 15, it says, and this surah is called Surah Al-Sajdah because of this ayah. It's named after this ayah. In this ayah, we are told the people who truly believe in our ayat are only those who, when they are reminded of them, of the ayat, they fall down prostrating and they glorified God with praise, and they are not, therefore, they are not arrogant. Subhanallah. And I feel like from the beginning, in ayah 1, it's already shedding light on 15. 15 is right in the middle, right? This is 30 ayat. And usually the first ayah sets the tone. Usually when you learn how to write, they tell you, tell what you want to, what your article or paper is about. You have to spell it in the first sentence. And the first ayah is Alif, Lam, Mim, and it is beautiful. It in a very beautiful and subtle and very powerful way teaches us what an ayah is. It teaches us when we listen to it and conform to its guidance. And conforming to its guidance is not a merely intellectual exercise. We cannot read the Quran as intellectually only. It talks to all our feelings, all our being. It is a whole message. Of course, we will do the intellectual work as well, but after that, not but, because it's not, they go on the same line. Once we do the intellectual work, then comes the true, the listening, the listening with our heart, with our ruh, with our soul, recognizing our needs, presenting them to our Rabb. All that process is a process of seeking the guidance in this ayah. I'll stop here, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة اللهم ذكرنا منه ما نسينا وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you, Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina. Are there any comments or questions at this time? Please don't be shy.
السلام عليكم جزاكم الله خير جزاك الله خير يمينة.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
When you were saying that when we are reading the signs around us and there is something that we don't like, it becomes like a more clear way of evaluating if we are actually reading them the way they're supposed to be read or not. So, like in the example that you gave, like, I don't know, maybe it just jumped in my head, or you gave it like, with things around there, like wars that are happening, people, losing their countries, being displaced, or someone they love being very sick with an incurable disease. But wars maybe is a bigger one. Like there's so many people that you meet on everyday basis that were inflicted or by war.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you're reading the sign and trying to find the meaning, and I'm just gonna transgress very quickly, I watched a movie with my daughter called The Cave about Mosul in Syria, a hospital underground where the doctor, a female doctor, and the crew, everyone is volunteering just to keep people in Mosul, like, taking care of everyone who's working in the hospital. There's no payment, there's nothing. Everyone is just holding on and trying. There's one surgeon, he's trying to do surgery. And then like in 5 years, at the end of the 5 years, like when chemical weapons are used against them, they have to get evacuated. So as they're looking back, or as they're going through this time, one of the things that I was looking at was like resilience, like, subhanAllah, like they are till the last minute, they are helping, they are trying to save each other, trying to have a difference, like in a city that's being like damaged and broken down every day more than the next. But I'm trying now to read the signs with this understanding. So help me. What do you read through all of this? Like, how would you look at all of this? I guess, yeah. Question. I don't have an answer.
Was there someone who was going to say something? Please go ahead. Now, we can't go into the details because it's going to be long, but first part of the reading. Now, there is you will have general understanding. Now, I can't go into the details, as I said. It's like someone who has to learn is learning to read, and someone brings you an ode, a poem. What does it mean? But in any case, first, definitely the feelings we feel are part of the guidance. The feelings that we feel, some of them can be truthful, some of them can be feelings they are not right or wrong, but they can be based on a wrong understanding, wrong assumptions. If the assumption is wrong, then the feeling is going to be baseless, not wrong, but baseless. Definitely, when we see destruction, we feel pain and we feel the need for help, and the need for help in both ways. Someone to help us, therefore, to help those people. Can I do something to help? We feel the need for help, the helper. And other, for instance, if there is, as you talked here about doctors, healing and all that. While we are feeling all those feelings, if our assumption is that this world is all there is, then it's going to be unbearable. And then it's going to be either difficult to have that patience and what was the word you used? Not perseverance, but
I think perseverance, like, was the word that they were persevering in spite of, like,
you used the word that has resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah, that's even more closer to sabr than, yeah. So either it's going to be hard to have resilience, or a person will have to be more like to bracket out their feelings in order to survive in that very messy and sad situation, right? So the first thing is when I feel very sad, very helpless, very weak, very powerless, even if I am helping, I can see that my help is very limited. I myself is as vulnerable, as fragile as all the others. Then if I am a believer, it's going to remind me of not only my vulnerability and fragility, but the fragility of the whole of this world. This world is passing all the time. So the dynamic is going to be totally different. The sadness is going to be still there, but how I feel about the sadness is going to be different once I am sure, I have certainty that this world is passing, is temporary, and its temporariness is actually something, a reminder, an ayah that it is an ayah indicating the eternal world. Things are coming from somewhere and going somewhere. So now my interaction with the sad events are going to be very different. The sadness is going to start speaking to me. In the beginning, that sadness doesn't speak. It's a sadness that's, I'm now trying to live, not really, because normally if I was reading this, like reading in that sense, I would have to stop and really contemplate and reflect, contemplate my own feelings, the situation, how I feel about it, what is it telling me. Now I don't have the time to even listen to my feelings first, because my feelings are the ayat that are going, and I will have to check whether my feelings are based on reality or based on my assumptions that may be mistaken. Does it make sense so far? So if I take sadness and helplessness and vulnerability here, the moment I realize that everything is coming from somewhere and going somewhere, that we are here as guests only, that we are here only temporarily, and remember that all these feelings are coming from somewhere, they're not coming from me, like the understanding is not from me, the sadness is not from me, the desire to help these people is not from me, or to receive help myself is not from me, then they remind me that someone, I am not, things are happening and they seem messy because I cannot control them, but they are under control. So I cannot see the whole picture. So it may not make sense to me, but at the same time, even if it doesn't make sense to me because I can't see the whole picture, I have that under deeper, not at the heart level, there is sadness, there is pain, there is, but deeper at the ruh level, there is that peace of surrender, that peace of knowing that my Rabb is in control, that my Rabb, just if I have this compassion, this desire to help all these people, it's coming from him, and it is telling me that he is the ones who wants to help them. And so I start questioning my help and well-being, being good, is not only in this world and in this temporary world, in this temporary realm, but what matters is the end. So someone may seem like the one in power destroying the other one, but in reality, in the long run, on the other, as Imam Ali radiallahu anh says, I prefer to be 1,000 times oppressed than being once the oppressor, because the oppressor is oppressing not only the bodies of the other one, but he's oppressing his own being, his own existence, his own soul. And if the soul is destroyed, it's going to have implications in eternally. But the other one, even if you are physically being harmed, what matters is the intact, having that the soul is growing and learning in whatever situation. And in those situations, some people find God, find themselves closer to God because they really, we say we are abd, we say we are totally dependent on our Rabb, but it still feels that I'm still doing things myself. But in that situation, like when you are being bombarded or something, you feel utterly, I cannot do anything. And my life any time can go. Actually, it's true for everyone, but there, the awareness is more acute. Now, if that awareness is not, the fear is only the fear of dying in this world, and I am not acquainted with my Rabb, and therefore with the eternal realm, that fear is very, how do you say, can be very destructive. It can, you can imagine even getting mad or imbalanced from it. But if there is something that grounds us, then that fear will take us back to seeking help. And the help is definitely help in this world, but at least the help in this world is a sign to eternal help. I'm just giving a blueprint because I can't go into the details, because we have to have, what I feel about it may not be what you feel about it. We have to also take a particular event, not everything, because we'll have lots of feelings about everything. But definitely, things start having, the meaning changes when we know that there is hope, because there is a Rabb. It's just like when, of course, it's a simplification, but I am very hungry, there is no food. Suddenly I see the sign and I am happy, I'm relieved, although I still haven't eaten anything yet. There is still no food to be seen, but the message, the meaning brings me hope. So this is also something similar. The meaning brings hope to the one who believes in it, to the extent that he believes in it. And one of the worst things, all the fear and the sadness and everything, I feel they are painful because they remind us of how fragile we are, how powerless we are. And in a sense, that's our reality. We are fragile and vulnerable and helpless all the time. It's just that our needs are being met all the time. In those crises, in those acute moments, who we are is like suddenly, it's like the nakedness mentioned in the Quran of Adam and Eve, the nakedness of our inner being, our vulnerability. And we feel it as a wound. It's like a raw wound that hurts a lot, but to the extent that we have belief in God and we make the Shahada. It's not a belief based on assumptions, but based on witnessing and experiencing in God and Akhirah. To that extent, it is healed. And so it is like that taqwa, that God consciousness is the only cloth that can cover our vulnerability, only taqwa. Otherwise, we can try with leaves here and there, they're not going to cover it up. And those situations bring it up even more. Yes, please go ahead.
Add to what you have just said, I find it helpful to keep in mind also that beauty manifests with contrast. So those tragic circumstances enable for beauty to manifest. So if there is no danger, then courage doesn't manifest. Those people's resilience, their capacity for compassion, their skills of helping other people, and those people feeling helped, all of that manifests through these kind of circumstances. And the idea of, as you said, this is not just this world, we are guests here, then the pictures are being taken, this is under cameras, if you will, divine cameras, so this is being seen, that and the real loser is always the one who transgressed against others and their own soul, as you have just said. Knowing that also really changes qualitatively the situation. It's still really sad, really sad to see all these innocents being perishing in this way. But it reminds me, the verse, the passage in the Quran that talks about Ashabul, what was the Arabic? I don't know, but they were thrown in a
الأخدود أصحاب الأخدود.
Oh, yes, they were thrown in a pit. And when you read it, it doesn't identify who these people are, names and stuff. But when I read that passage, I feel like, wow, this is such an honor. I mean, what is happening is tragic, because the text is saying they were thrown into this pit and they watched these people burn in this pit. And yet, who are really losers? The people who did that, and the people who were tried in.
They're the monsters.
They came out. They came out as people displaying a courage and witness to truth, that human being has the capacity.
That's why we call them shaheed, because they made shahada to the truth.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just want to mention that this world, good and bad.
I think the contrast point is something. We have to start with that, because we cannot read the signs if we don't know, if we are not aware of the meaning, the wisdom of contrast. Like, why do I have hunger? So I feel hungry, then I appreciate being full. I appreciate food, sustenance, nourishment, and therefore the nourisher. But when I am full, I am okay. And I say, yes, God is the nourisher. When I'm hungry, I say, why is there hunger? Because in this state, for instance, war is a lack of safety, a lack of something. It's like hunger. It's a need for something. Something is missing. So you can take hunger or illness, like needing healing and health, and everything that happens in the world can be used on, can be perceived in the same manner. And when we understand that the contrast itself is the ayah, unless we understand the dynamic of contrast as an ayah, we won't be able to see beyond. And what is beyond the names of God? There is no contrast. There is the realm of the ruh. The ruh doesn't ask those questions. Those questions are good because they are what puts us on the path of seeking guidance, of seeking light, of seeking help and answers. But in the beginning, we are going to go back again and again, but there will be a point where we start living from the heart and then from the ruh. When we start living from the ruh, we don't become heartless. We still experience the sadness and the pain of the situation, but the ruh is at peace because the ruh sees what is beyond, what the contrast of, for instance, lack of safety, lack of security, lack of whatever is lacking in that situation, together with what is needed, is always hunger and being full, both together through their contrast point to the source that takes care of the need, the source of the beautiful names of God. And the ruh is the addressee to the names of God directly, beyond all the contrasts. So through our heart, we are moved by the situation, and then if the ruh has been trained to find the ayat, how the contrasts is the ayah indicating beyond, then it finds the beautiful names of God, and that will be like the urwatul wutqa, holds onto them, and then comes back in the world, but experiences the pain and the sadness in a different way, not in a devastating, hopeless way, but in a serene way, in a peaceful way. You're still crying, you're still sad, you're still helping, and it becomes much easier to be resilient and to be compassionate even when others are transgressing, for instance, not becoming a monster like the others.
جزاك الله كل خير يعني. جزاك الله كل خير.
Thank you, Sister Alia, for the question too. And is there anyone who wants to ask a question or make a comment at this time? Okay, so then on that note, we will pause here. There was a text posted on the chat box. Farah said, I am sad. Sadness came upon me. Sadness was sent to me. Sadness came to me about suffering. What is the one who sends sadness in response to suffering? I'm trying to summarize my approach to such issues. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. What is important here is if I say, oh, God willed it and there must be a wisdom, and like ignore those feelings and just put them under the rug, and like they remain there unresolved, that definitely is not I am not reading the signs, because the signs come in the creation as well as in the Quran. And the beauty and the power of the message of the Quran is that it guides and brings light and meaning and wisdom to those signs, to those feelings, to those situations we live in the world. That's the power of the message of the Quran, the guidance of the Quran.
Thank you. Jazakumullah khair. So we can stop here on that note, and inshallah we'll see you next week, continuing onwards with Surah Sajda. Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina, and thank you very much everyone for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah kulla khair. Thank you very much.